Did we need the clarification? Not really. But we have it anyway. And basically, what FIN 46 says, before you go through this analysis of what percentage interests you have or don't, it asks you to take a look at all entities that you are involved with economically, and it asks you to identify whether those entities, any of those entities, are what they call variable interest entities. I'm going to define what those variable interest entities are. But the bottom line basically is, if you have a variable interest entity or are involved with a variable interest entity, regardless of the percentage ownership that you have in it, you must consolidate it. You must consolidate variable interest entities. Now, what's a variable interest entity? Ultimately, a variable interest entity is an entity whose financial or organizational structure doesn't really correspond with the economic reality behind it. So, for example, let me give you an example. Enron was a perfect case. Andy Fastow was a CFO. His wife was a director in the accounting department. They owned 90% of a bunch of these subsidiaries that were not being consolidated. They personally, officers of the company, personally owned 90% of the stock of a company. Now, that entity could borrow $500 million. Well, they as officers didn't have the wherewithal to guarantee that. Who would guarantee that? Enron. So all of a sudden you've got entities in which the economic ownership interests don't correspond with the economic realities or activities of that entity. Where guarantees are provided by companies even though they don't have the ownership, right? If the owners don't seem to have sufficient equity at stake, if the gains or losses or economic interests don't seem to be aligned with the economic percentages, right? So Andy Fastow owns 90% of the stock of this company, but he has no stakes in, its distribution. So anything that smells like it's been created to obviate a consolidation, right? If it smells like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. Entities whose organizational structure or makeup doesn't correspond or equate to the economic realities. If an entity is deemed to be a variable interest entity, it must be consolidated.
What's an example of one of those that's not fraudulent?
Well, I don't even want to say whether things are fraudulent or not. The issue is, why would you create it, right? Why would you create it? And I think that's what this is trying to get to.
But is there an example of like a legitimate?
Well, listen, I'll give you a legitimate example of something that you see in real estate, and I say legitimate example that you see in real estate quite a bit. I told you, sort of amplifying the corporate organizational structure I just went through. Real estate development firm ABC has a 50-50 joint venture, right? With Met. The reality is a lot of times this entity doesn't own that, right? Who owns that? We've talked about this before. Right, so the owner of this company is the one that owns that. But a lot of times what will happen is this guy may only own 49%. Why might he only own 49%? He wants limited liability. So we need a GP here somewhere, right? So a lot of times you'll see the general partner will be a corporation. It'll be a subsidiary of the development firm that'll own 1% interest here. Now, a lot of times that's even set up as a separate entity outright, okay, owned by the ownership group. But you can have this. It's a general partner, assumes X amount of liability, but only has a 1% economic interest in it.
the general part, the GP is the VIE? So the GP entity is a VIE or?
Okay, let's go through the rules, right, specifically. Does this entity have sufficient equity at risk?
No.
You know, do the holders have the general characteristics of typical owners? You know, are voting rights proportional to the risks and rewards? You know, probably not, right? So if you don't want to consolidate this, what do you have to do? Just create a different entity. Have him own a corporation that takes it, right? And you just totally sever it there. Dustin, the answer ultimately comes around to you must report on a consolidated basis.
No, I was just.
Yeah, and
I'm not looking for a workaround.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying is, so if at this day and age, based on the rules, they're pretty clear cut. If you're somehow involved with an activity and you've got some sort of guarantee, or you're on the hook somehow, or you're benefiting somehow, you're going to have to consolidate it. Okay? So FIN 46 says, step one, before we even look at percentage ownerships, is it a VIE? If it's a VIE, we got to consolidate it. If it's not a VIE, then let's go to the different thresholds. Okay? And we can figure out whether we do the cost basis of accounting, the equity basis of accounting, or full consolidation.
Professor, if you're running a development company, at what point do you, I guess, go from a bookkeeper to an accountant?
At what point?
Yeah, like can't your bookkeeper prepare everything to send to your? Because even in Codina, you had accountants, but then you still send your statements to an accountant outside the.
I mean, look, it's very difficult to give you a dollar threshold, or look, ultimately it has to do with the complexity of a business, you know. So if you're a developer and you're doing single-family homes and you're doing one at a time, you know, you might even be able to do all the accounting. You might have like a part-time bookkeeper who answers the phone and helps you with releases and doing all. I mean, one person can do everything. You start doing 3 houses at a time, ultimately you want the level of sophistication for the level of activity that you have. And it's not in any way to minimize, but people are trained differently. And so if you want somebody just doing mechanics, you need to make sure that they've got the proper supervision. And if you can't provide that, they need to have an accountant that comes every month. And that costs you money. At a certain point, it's going to be more cost effective to have somebody on staff than it is to pay an accountant to come every month.
So did Codina have like bookkeepers?
Oh yeah.
Gathered and then it went to your department for accounting?
No. So I mean, we had. So I was a CFO, right? And so I had an HR group, I had an IT group, and then I had an accounting group. And now when I got there, we had multiple, like every division had an accounting group. I brought it all together, but I had 2 or 3 people that just did, 3 people that did construction accounting. I had like 5 or 6 that did development accounting. I had one lady that did just brokerage, all the commissions and all the payments and everything. And I had 3 or 4 people that did property management accounting. And they all reported, there was a controller here, there was a controller here, and then these 2 people had one controller. So they reported up to, eventually, when I became the CIO, they eventually had another controller there that they reported to. But yeah, I mean, these people, some of these people were trained accountants, some were just, you say bookkeepers, people that, learn the craft. You have to be very, you've seen it, the debits have to equal credits,
No, but I mean, like, for like a credit card transaction for the month, you're not gonna have an accountant go through that. Or you just have some busy, like the busy work. to collect all the,
Listen, it's very difficult to answer the question, you know, without, you just have to know, you know, we had a guest speaker this term, Ali. Ali came and spoke, I think, the second term. He's a controller in Cadina's family office. Ali, at one point years ago, was a development accountant. And then he became, I think we called him manager, not controller at one point. Then he went somewhere else. When he went to work at Cadina's family office, he was everything. Chief bottle wash, he was everything. He had IT under him. You know, there were 3 people working there. Now there's like 8 women that are doing accounting, and they've hired an accounting manager to supervise them. I don't know the level of those ladies, but I think they're all more bookkeeper types than accounting types. And women tend to make much better accountants and bookkeepers than men, just so that you know, because they're more detail-oriented and organized and, sorry, I hate, probably politically incorrect or whatever, you know. Men tend to be pretty sloppy. Sorry. Okay. Listen, I'm cutting a lot of this stuff so that we don't, I'm going to cut through a lot of this stuff so we can take a break and stay on time. 20 below, 20 or 50, 50 above.
Full. Got it.
Take a break. You guys are done.
I hope he gives it.
You guys are done, but that's
I got grilled for an hour.
good.
Oh, where's my pillow? Oh,
Man, you guys are dead.
it's been a long day.
Hey, I left your shoes on.
Long day.
Your shoes are great.
Yeah, why do you think I wear them?
Phenomenal.
No, listen.
That's why I like his.
No, listen. When I first started teaching, I didn't think it was professional to wear this, but well, no, but listen. But before, I also used to teach 2 hours Friday night and 4 Saturday.
Yeah, last Saturday.
Now I'm
And I was
on
like,
7 hours straight. It gets impossible.
Saturday, and then you jobs, and I was like,
No, I can't see it. I see it. I'm like, okay, but what? Do I have to go there and see what it is?
I'm about to do one of those too, man. So some guys can fund my development, my first development.
All right, here's the problem. How much is GoFundMe taking out of this? It's ridiculous, isn't it? It's like 30% or something.
What do I do? I don't have the.
So, Zach, I'll tell you what, when I looked, because we're talking about putting a turf field and redoing the track at school. So it's a lot of money. Entonces, you know, okay, I'm gonna set up a foundation. I'm like, you know what, let me see if I can find like a link just to make it easy for people that they can just, and there's 2 or 3 of these places, but okay, they take a huge, wait, but it's a crime.
It's a crime.
It's a crime, it really is a crime.
Otherwise, your choices, you have to set up a foundation and create those.
No, but it's,
You know,
but that's not even the issue. That's an issue, but that's not even the issue, because you can go and create a donor advised fund at Schwab and make it easy. The problem is, okay, just to process a credit card basically is all they're doing for you.
I know, and all over the place, I would ask you from Alemania, from Germany, from France, you know. Because you can have social media, you know.
Job cost profit summary. We got the freight for job cost profit summary. Then the freight for JV equity. No, this all went on.
Whatever
And my assumptions.
Yeah, and his attorney.
And then this was my cover, and I wrote him a couple of things with my assumptions,
I'm just throwing this out.
what assumptions I made, and then I asked him to actually critique my assumptions. He didn't want to,
I would like
but he actually did.
The way youth soccer works,
I didn't get back to him.
Yes, you know something, something.
platform that does registration. Anybody can do it.
Of course not, not me. I'll tell you what, let me back up from the thing.
And they charge you based on registration. So, haga informado, so you have to use God soccer. Para que FYSA sanctions. No problem. When he joined, they created this thing a couple years ago. You can't just start a club. There was an Optimist Club in Miramar, now like a sponsor. When you know who wrote it, when I call God soccer, I said, listen, he's credit card processing.
And even if I make my own yours, here's the logic is all there.
You have to call the credit. And you have to hire a programmer.
That's why I sent my assumptions,
Phenomenal.
because
Phenomenal.
all the
All
other
got done like this.
Honestly,
Half a point. Discount, right? Entonces de pronto, esta semana, they're about to start registrations for next year. Y me llaman, our unit doesn't work, it's invalid.
different evaluations on my own.
Call God soccer, go ahead, we gotta go. No, how do you get it? Well, we sent an email, I go, well, I didn't get anything.
Reversion.
Well, it doesn't matter, you have to switch, it is the only company
And
that
you
you
know
don't.
what he wanted, so he,
It's
just the,
all the same monthly fees you had before, plus 3.5% discount. Entonces, cada niño haga su $30 $25 le están quitando.
Es una cosa, nosotros experiencia.
No, you have no.
Nosotros tenemos una
I tell you the one thing that will help
Financial.
Right,
he did it on the first day. Send it back, say, no, it doesn't send it, maybe send it back. Say all the issues. Where's, and I they may have been off from.
I'm gonna try and get something part-time, full-time. I don't mind it now because
Yeah, just like if
I might take a construction course in
You have to watch the live.
like that.
You're great.
my mom told me to keep going. I already signed up for the construction course, but I signed up for it. I already paid for it.
I'm
You'll have a whole class. Because like anytime I go out here,
¿Cuánto tiene un company? My parents were the keys at
you know what, actually. Yeah, my
I did my
my mom,
she wants to go to the same school I went to.
Last year?
I'm gonna just take this class. Because I did one class at a time, straight.
Died.
She keeps saying she was doing it for insurance and she got it class. Can't be done.
yeah, right
That's got a lot of.
Vamos a trabajar. El año pasado hicimos un evento
Pero eso es por lo de manos de
I was actually looking at
entonces la gente
Federation, like they own it.
estamos en una serie
They have a
Ni quiero saber.
Quiero saber. Entonces, nada, esto me funciona ellos mismos funcionan de esa manera, pero es un robo.
That's one of the toughest things
Hasta el punto que yo pensé que sería un buen negocio en el meterse.
I know.
That, you know, because once you set it up once, I mean, the real hard work is
because then you have to, all right, I'm gonna give my baby 2 years, 2 hours, but then I need to take some sleep away.
So you didn't work last night?
Okay, class. Hey, we're approaching a stretch. And it's American Pharaoh. And down the stretch they come.
Are you motivational when you do your little halftime speeches?
I wanted to do a presentation. Because I said, no, I'll do it. And I want to say, what I'm trying to say is that
At some point you gotta go like this. He bends his hand. He's like, he puts his glasses in his mouth.
what I'm trying to say is that
Oh, you gotta say is twice. All the time.
Well, what it is. Professor, are we cutting today at 5 or what's the
Seriously,
schedule?
at this point, I don't see us getting out before 5:30.
Oh my lord.
that's not my fault. My presentation.
No, yours is great.
10 minutes.
It's well.
Okay, listen,
It's gonna get hot.
I'm hot already.
I know.
It is what it is.
It always is, isn't it?
It is.
What it is.
What it is. Wasn't that Macklemore?
Look at you, Ray Macklemore. What's going on, bro?
He's with those kids all day, that's why.
Yeah.
Damn millennials.
Those things.
Oh, shit.
Okay,
You want me to present my spreadsheets?